And welcome to another exciting episode. I am so happy to be back for the third episode of our World Gaming Trade Show. And I'm your host, Jeremy Evans from the In-Game Boss podcast and the In-Game Boss program. And over here on the other side, all the way across in Indiana,
the one and only Brandon from the game Addicts podcast. What's going on, guys? Good to be back here again with you once again in this crazy, crazy world that we're living in right now. We're hoping that we can kind of distract from that and bring you guys some good quality audio entertainment, talking about some games.
Yeah, and the point of this podcast, if it's your first time listening to this or coming back for another dose of it, basically what we do is we're going to take properties and games that you really haven't heard in a long time, and we want to bring them back to the surface and talk about who do we think can make this game better, who do we think can bring the love back into our hands of enjoying these games. And so if you listen to our very first episode, we did through like Comic Zone, and we did what was your game on that one was again, I'm sorry,
Legend of Dragoon, right?
Yeah, Legend of Dragoon, yeah, that's right. And then in the second episode we definitely did there's been so much going on. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Shadowrun.
Yeah, we did Shadowrun, and then I also did Snatcher. Yeah. So we went more like more sci-fi with this, but this batch here is a little interesting. I guess this is the most interesting batch because the thing about Brandon and I is we basically do this show once a month, and you know, when we have time, we both like message each other what game we're gonna pick for the next round. So we don't talk ahead of time. We're more of like, hey, hit me up when you got your game ready, and I got my game ready, and then we spend the whole month trying to just get this together. And it's kind of interesting because you know you have a bunch of games that I have never touched, and there's probably a bunch of games that I say that you never touch, and that's where it gets kind of interesting to go do research, watch videos, and come back with our full thoughts. So the way it works is in the first half we have one person talk about their game and what developers from each side that we want to see do it. Then we take a break and we come back with a second. But this episode is special. Even though it's the third episode, we actually have a third choice in this one. And so we're definitely going to try 3 games to see how long it takes us to do this episode for those. And if it does well, we'll probably do 3 more. It just depends too, because if they're big games, you know, then we're gonna spend more time with those. But if they're kind of small games and whatnot, then yeah, we can get through them pretty quick. But that doesn't leave you guys out. So remember, as you listen to this episode and you have people that you think could develop these games that we pick, definitely leave a comment down below. Message us. You know, let us know your thoughts, because remember, you can listen to us on my In-Game Boss program on Podbean, Spotify, and whatnot. And Game Addict Podcast is also on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and whatnot. So we're both going to have it there. So, you know, pick and choose, but we still want to hear your feedback and whatnot. Brandon, anything you want to add before we start this first display of games?
Oh, man, I'm just so happy to be doing this show with you. I mean, it's an awesome escape. It gives me something to think about throughout my quiet moments at work when I get and I go back to it and I'm thinking, man, who in the world would I get to do Wing Commander? And that's exactly what the first choice is. It's Wing Commander. Wing Commander is my choice for this one. And man, I tell you what, you know, you hit me up with your pick, and I'm like, all right, man, I'm gonna have to look at my picks, because my pick was actually I wrote down, because I love that game. I love your pick, which we'll get to later. And I'm like, oh man, he took one of mine. All right, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna stick with the same. With the same system, Sony PlayStation, right? Mm-hmm. Because I played Wing Commander 4 on the Sony PlayStation. Now, Wing Commander's been around for a long time. Wing Commander's been around since 1990 or so, and it came out like on a plethora of consoles. The original Wing Commander was like a 16-bit era type game. Like came out on MS-DOS, Sega CD, 3DO, you know, and all that stuff.
I own a 3DO.
Dude, I actually saw one at a store not that long ago, and like I never really see the consoles, but I do see some games from time to time. It always weirds me out seeing like the big long box of like of like Need for Speed or something.
Yeah,
Road Rash. But yeah, man, Wing Commander, you know, came out on like Super Nintendo even. I think Wing Commander 1 was on Super Nintendo. And what the gameplay style is, it's like a cockpit view dogfighting game, like in space essentially. And I remember playing it and getting turned around and not knowing where I'm going, trying to use the radar, and it's hard to do, especially with the graphics at the time, even on the PlayStation ones, to be honest with you. They're hard to play. But the PlayStation, like Wing Commander 3 and 4, did something really cool by adding in some really good story elements and also a little bit of interactivity, because around that time, you start having the intro to CD-ROM based gaming, the Sega CDs, like the 3DOs, like we mentioned, and one of the big things they started doing was putting actual video on the discs of actual actors. Now, a lot of the times, like the original Resident Evil had this, and these are actors that couldn't get jobs in infomercials. I mean, they're just really bad actors. But this is different. Wing Commander got some really, I mean, not A-list actors, but some pretty good actors. Mark Hamill plays the lead character in the game. And this is Luke Skywalker, dude. This is the Joker. You know, he's not a small-time actor.
I was surprised when I found out it was him in there. I'm like, wow, he just does everything. Yeah.
It's so cool, because then they also got Tom Wilson. He played Biff in Back to the Future. So this is like 10 years later from that. He's playing, you know, he's got his own quirkiness characterization to him. You got a bunch of different actors. Malcolm McDowell, you know, he Star Trek Generations. He played the main villain in that movie. So, I mean, he's no small time guy. John Rhys Davies, you know, Lord of the Rings, Indiana Jones, Sliders. Like we talked about that before we went on air, Sliders. So it's like,
yep.
I absolutely love, like, you know, some of these guys that are in this. And then you watch the story unfold. These are real-time actors, so it's interactive, though, because then you can, like, point and click different rooms to go into, and you'll see the dude standing there, and you click on him to go to, and then the scene will play out. And then they'll be talking, and you watch it, and then there'll also be times where you get to pick a choice. You know, think about how ahead of that time that was. This is like mid-90s, 94 or something, I think, is when 3 came out. And back in 93 or back in, like, you know, like in 96 or whatever, when Wing Commander 4 came out, you could have an interactive cutscene where they filmed 2 different things that Mark Hamill would say, that you could pick one or the other. Back then,
that's a lot of work, man. That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but it's so cool to see. And, you know, I remember renting Wing Commander 4 from one of my local game shops, and it's on 4 discs. Like, it is packed.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah, dude. Like the cases back there, like they are like the old, like the Final Fantasy Metal Gear. I think it's 4 discs for each one. I think, but man, like they are big games, and I'm just thinking, like, with how far we've come with our technology, with our graphical capability, I think the game would play better, because you'd be able to more easily see where you're going, what you're doing, and have better spatial awareness. Because even when it was on the PlayStation, like, the graphics were pretty decent for the time, for 94, 99, 96.
But was it originally made for the PS1, or was it ported to the PS1?
Now, I want to say they were made for computer and then ported over.
Okay.
I remember playing 4 and then, you know, finding 3 when I was collecting, and then knowing and seeing the original ones that were like the 16-bit, you know, that were even before like the graphical upgrade for like the later years. But even on the PlayStation where I played it, it was hard to know where you were going. I just felt like I was tumbling in darkness. And then I'm like, oh, there he is. Oh, let me get over there. You know, I'm dogfighting, and it's difficult. And I started trying to think of some other people. Of course, the game was developed by Origin, which was bought by EA. Now is no longer a team. They no longer exist. Now we could get anybody we want. That's the whole point of the show. I could go over here and I could say, you know, Bungie's going to do this because I want Bungie to do it. That's not my pick. But you know, I could literally like Coalition from Microsoft. You're up. You know, they're again not my pick, but anybody. But I was kind of thinking EA owns the property. Who could I get? You know, like who would really excel at doing something that, like, so I looked at Respawn first.
Okay.
And, you know, they did Titanfall, And so they kind of have something in like a hub grid and move around in a mech. It's not the same as flying in space, but it's okay there. And then they have like a cool little, cool shooter aspect. They just did Fallen Order, which is a completely different kind of game, but it's set in Star Wars. Okay, I'm like, well, maybe not them. I'm thinking of like so then I start thinking of like the interactive cutscenes. Like, would I still want them to be shot in with actual actors?
Okay.
And I think I do. I think for me, I would. Because did you ever play Quantum Break?
Yes. Yeah. From Remedy, the people that did Control, Alan Wake, Max Payne. Yeah.
Yeah. So they did like a TV episode tie-in with the game.
Okay.
Where you would play the Quantum Break, and like when you got to a certain part in the story, it would ask you, hey, do you want to watch the episode? And the episode would be like 20, 30 minutes, roughly, but it would be a pretty good high quality shot of that. And I'm like, that'd be kind of cool to take the idea of the game as is, like Wing Commander, where they have these scenes and they're filmed and they're interactive, but then the space. I kept getting hung up on the space thing. So there was a developer a while back that came out with a pretty cool space exploration shooter type thing. And I think you might know where I'm going with this.
Hello
Games.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, you didn't pick my pick. I was like, uh-oh. Yeah. Okay.
So Hello Games released No Man's Sky. Now everybody knows that game kind of got panned when it came out. It didn't really live up to its promises.
Overly hyped.
Overly hyped, yes. But they really put a lot of work into making that game what they said they wanted to make that game. They didn't give up on it. And from everything, that I've seen and heard, they've lived up to it, or at least to their word. And people are loving it now more than they did when it first came out. Unfortunately, that does mean that like a lot of the people who originally got hyped and played it and then hated it, they probably aren't going to go back to it. But I like what they did with their ship and their exploration. Now, obviously, that's not what Wing Commander is. It's more of a combat. But I liked the feel of flying around in that a lot. So I think let's bring these guys into EA as a second party. You make this game for us. We have assets made available to you. You can even have people from some of the other companies come in and like, hey, maybe let's try this and let's try this. Of course, Hello Games is a much smaller studio, which would benefit from having the money and the backing from EA, having some of the more expertise from guys from Respawn, or from even doesn't even have to do with this, but like from like DICE or even BioWare to bring in and mold up like an experience to let this smaller company do something with a property that hasn't been done in quite some time, with some, like, how cool would it be to get Mark Hamill back after all these years, get in that cockpit one more time. And here he is, Star Wars is done, man. Luke Skywalker's done. But, let him suit up one more time in Wing Commander. And I think, since a large part of what their folly was with No Man's Sky was that the galaxy was basically empty and there was nothing to do. And they hyped a multiplayer aspect, but that wasn't there. But I feel like if you give them give them control of the ship, pun intended, I guess, and let them make a completely different thing from what they've already done, but put aspects of their traverse and their combat system into this, along with some cool new age, back in the day on those on those video files, they were so compressed they looked terrible even back then. And then oh my gosh, in Wing Commander 3 there's this race, and I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but they look like lions.
Okay.
And they're wearing the costume with this lion head, and it looks terrible. It looks absolutely atrocious. You gotta all right, use my imagination here. Chewbacca, you aren't. But
yeah.
But that's my pick. Hello Games. I think they would kill it.
So let me ask you a few questions. So that Hello Games, one of the things they definitely like to do is a lot of exploring. So, and mission side stories and base and stuff. Would you have your Wing Commander do those kind of things, like not so much explore planets and get out or anything like that, but like, go explore like, maybe like broken ships and look for parts. That'd be cool. Find, missing people that float out, maybe something like that. Because when you mentioned Mark Hamill coming back, I remember in the fourth one, what I read is he did retire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, per se. That, or he can be training a new person to replace him. That'd be kind of cool.
Well, like when you're making a new story in a new game, it doesn't take a lot to bring somebody out of retirement. Just like in the old comic books,
right?
Batman can hang up that cowl, but the moment that like Gotham gets in danger again, there he is, an old 60-year-old man Batman putting on the cowl again, like the old Dark Knight Returns. I think it'd be neat if you're able to calibrate a story which kind of drags him back into it.
Okay.
Back into the cockpit. I like your idea though about making him maybe not the player character, maybe make him like more of a side character.
Because he could probably be your wingman. Yeah. And so, and then also the one thing is you can not customize. You could choose what you want to take with you on your ship, like missiles and whatnot. But with Hello Games, customization is a big thing they want you to do. So how would you want to do with the customization of that? Like, what would you like to add or anything like that?
Well, see, I think it would be really cool if you were able to leave your ship and dock it somewhere, like either at the main port or other ports, because I wouldn't want a full galaxy to go to explore by myself. I would want pockets. So that way it's like, okay, this stuff's going on over here, this stuff's going on over here. So that way you limit the size and scope. You're not just going to run around like Hello Games did on the planets and discover stuff. Instead, you can go to other places and try to track down parts, try to track down maybe some things to trade for currency, to where you can upgrade your ship at the main base and upgrade your armor, maybe even do some cosmetic stuff too to make it look more cool. And like you said, upgrade the weaponry. Like start off with the basic stuff, and then over the course of the time of the game, we really give you the chance, make that a part of the exploration. Because I think it'd be cool to run around the base, because like in the original game, you just clicked from room to room, and there'd be a dude standing there, and you go talk to him. How cool would it be is if you just ran up to him, and initiated that video cutscene where then it was interactive, almost kind of like a lot of modern RPGs do nowadays anyway.
Okay.
But like, you can make that like in the first person view too, like when you're roaming around, just like, keep the whole game in the first person mode, because the main combat stuff is in the cockpit too.
I was going to ask you that. Now, do you want to stay first person in the cockpit, or can you switch that out to third person? Like, looking behind the ship and whatnot, like you would say like Star Fox or something like that.
Since the original game was more of a sim, I guess, you could do both.
Okay.
You could do both probably. I would definitely encourage you to play it first person, because that's the way it originally was.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's just that's one thing that I like instantly thought of, because I was thinking of like a few other devs as well in some of the stuff that they did, and like I was thinking of Hello, because it's like just that view from that cockpit and everything of them traversing and doing all this kind of stuff. It like you didn't have the same level of dogfighting as that was like the main focus of the Wing Commander series, but it reminded me a lot of it, like the traversal, and it just like, wow, this looks like a Wing Commander game where you could tell where you're going. Like that's the first thing I thought of when I thought of No Man's Sky.
I think it'd be awesome too, like when you're in battle and you're dealing with like a fleet or whatever your enemies is. Like if they end up giving up or something like that, or surrendering, maybe those are some people that you can recruit based on their skills to come work on your ship and help you upgrade for better weapons, better stuff, maybe better decisions on choices and stuff. That might be interesting.
Yeah, like that kind of reminds me of something of like, did you ever play like Metal Gear Solid 5 or Peace Walker?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
where you could where you could like recruit dudes and they'd have their own stats. So like, hey, this guy. He's a really good medic guy, so he's going to be on the medic team. And this dude over here, he's a pretty good mechanic, so he's going to go on the mechanic squad. And the more that you upgrade guys with a high stat for that squad, the better your stuff gets.
Yeah, and how cool would it be that with that medic squad, like while you're going on an adventure, you give them assignment like, hey, I want you to make this, this, and this, and then when I come back, you'll get the update of, did this get completed? now you can add this to your ship. So, you got people working around the clock while you're out fighting. And I think that'd be pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, man, yeah.
Okay.
Like, I'm all game for that.
Okay. All right. So, for my pick, I picked a indie team that did a game called Everspace. They are known as Rockfish Games. And they're a bit of just a flying simulator kind of game, but it's third person and first person both ways. And what I wanted to do was I kind of just wanted to start from scratch and make it more of a strategy first person, third person simulation. So like I wanted to be where like you're kind of commanding a group while you're still fighting too. So, you're trying to strategize like, hey, you want a team to fight this fleet while you're fighting this fleet. Basically kind of have an open map, and then you go right into your battle and do your own thing with your wingman and whatnot. I wanted to have it where, let me see here. I wanted it to be where you can definitely send out crews to do like certain jobs for you and whatnot. And then like certain characters, like key characters, like you kind of like Mass Effect, you meet key characters. You can decide what position they want to play that you think fits them, and then maybe they have better saying for certain things. So I want it where like if I had this guy and I feel like I want to recruit him as my second in command, I want to do that. Or I can change him out and put someone else in. And I want it also where everybody has a saying. So, like, I can hear everybody's opinion. So, based on whoever I pick, I want the other people to feel like they're happy for me or disappointed in me. I want to deal with drama that's going on the ship, and whatnot. I do want death in this game. So, like, if I make the wrong decision, send somebody out, and, I want the permadeath. Like, that's my fault. I made that bad decision. That
would be kind of cool. Like, especially when you actually counter that, that kind of reminds me of, like the Fire Emblem games do that. Like with their characters, but we haven't really seen that too often in like games that really allow you to really like games like Mass Effect or anything like that that really allow you to get close with your characters.
Yeah. And I think that actually really help out like when you pick your wingman to join you and whatnot and different stuff like that. So my game is really more simple. But I think the strategy would be just really interesting because like if your team beats them, just the scrap they could bring back and upgrade your ship and whatnot and upgrade your fleet, as you're going against the battle against different things. I do want a bunch of new alien races in there. You mentioned kind of like the lion kind of creature that look like Chewbacca.
I think they're called the Kilrathi.
The Kilrathis? Yeah.
I think that might be them.
So I like to have it that way. But I think the main story I really want is just kind of like a war between two fleets as they're trying to own this territory of the solar system or something like that. And so, by fighting to own certain planets, not so much going down to explore, but also on top of that, actually, I take that back. How cool would that be if you fought for the planet and then you get it and then you could start doing civilization and start growing stuff there to build your base that connects to your stuff up in space. You don't have to actually go down there if you don't want to. It's just more of like, the stuff there. You get the message, and they'll send you more upgrades and stuff up there. More money, you can upgrade more stuff. I think that'd be kind of cool.
That kind of reminds me of like a more simplified version of the colonization stuff that happens in Mass Effect Andromeda.
Okay,
where like you're down there on the planet, you're doing all this stuff, all this repetitive stuth on the planet. Get it activated, set up a colony, and you can set up it's a research or is it like more for armaments or like and that kind of stuff, and they would supply stuff for the main crew or for the main group up there on the
Normandy. Well, not the Normandy, but close enough.
Well, like it wasn't a Citadel, but you had the Nexus or whatever. But like you had like 7 planets or whatever, and you had to go set up all these colonies. I think it'd be kind of cool if you implemented something like that. Like you said, maybe not go down onto the planet, but you actually you would get supplies and things from them. So like you would be encouraged to reach out and try to like if there is a conflict and there are these and maybe these guys hey, we need help, and then you help them. It's like, okay, now that you've helped us, we'll help you on your continued war effort.
Yeah, I think that just worked great. Just kind of like a little best of both worlds, where you feel like that you're you're helping civilization or you're helping build something, but also helping you while you're trying to fight this battle against another fleet. And they can go as far as like, hey, certain people are attacking your town there. You can start barking orders down there like, okay, we need to send supplies down there so they're good. So maybe you have to do a mission where you have to go find some stuff to help that. You know, just a bunch of fun stuff to do with that.
Oh, yeah.
And so yeah, that's my pick. I was Rockfish Games while you were over there with Hello Games. And so, but let's take a break, and we come back. We're going to bring in our second choice. It's our bonus one, a very special one. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the World Gaming Trade Show. I am Jeremy. This is Brendan. So let's get right into our next display of game. Now, this game is way back. Think of your Sega Genesis. Now, think about the early games you remember on your Sega Genesis. You know, yeah, Golden Axe, Streets of Rage 2, Sonic the Hedgehog. Remember Column? Yeah, that was cool, right? Yeah. But there was one game that was always packed in the collection. It's one of the big launch games at the time. It was unique in its own way, some way, but overall, everybody probably remembered this game, but maybe not the greatest memory of this game. But this is Ultra Beast. Now, let's be honest here. Me and Brendan talked outside of this before, and I made the choice to do this because, honestly, I'm not a big fan of this game. Brendan is not a big fan of this game, but I wanted to do the challenge of what can we do to make this game likable for us. So, for people that don't know, Ultra Beast is basically, I guess you could say, it's a on-rail beat-em-up game where, you know, you're brought back from the dead from Zeus, and your goal is to save her daughter Athena from the underworld led by Neph. And so, from there, you get these abilities to turn into, you know, different animal beasts and whatnot, like a, you know, werewolf, were-tiger, were-bear. There's a lot of wares, trust me on this. And so, but for people that probably didn't know that this is arcade and it came to the Sega Genesis and then every other collection, but they actually made another entry into it in 2005 for the PS2, just called Ultra Beast. And it was set in the modern times. And you played this guy, this out of nowhere guy that can change into, you know, all these other mythical creatures trying to destroy, like, I guess, like an organization or whatever. Didn't do very well. Got canceled in North America. So you're probably never ever going to play it. But if you look it up, it's not in the best condition that it could be. I think this was the time Sega was trying to still get use of 3D fighting and 3D action stuff. You know, remember Shinobi? Shinobi was decent, right? But the point is that Ultra Beast deserves better than that to me, because the game had Sega had an idea with this game. It just got lazy with it. So, for this particular one, before I even get into mine, Brandon, what is your thoughts about Ultra Beast?
I don't like the game. I don't like. I didn't like it back then. You know, as I told you before we went on there, I always thought it was just because I sucked. And so when I started collecting, I'm like, I'm gonna pick this up because it's a Sega. You know, it's Sega Genesis. It's one of the must-haves, right? And no, it's not. Or at least a Genesis port. However, you know, I already told you this one was kind of difficult for me because I didn't really get creative with it, because I was looking at it and I'm like, who could do this justice, or who could, or at least make this game likable? And the group that I came up with, I'm not even sure how to pronounce it. I'll be honest with you, but I'll give you a big hint. They're working on another big Sega beat 'em up game that's coming out here.
I know who you're talking about. Okay,
at least this is they are the publisher of it, and they also are working into the development of it as well. Because there's on Streets of Rage, there's actually 3 developers on it. Dotemu. Mm-hmm. Dotemu. Okay.
Okay.
Dotemu.
That's close enough. Yeah, close enough.
Whatever it is. When I went and looked at their list of games that they've worked on, now they've worked on a lot of ports. They've worked on a lot of like remasters, and so like they have some work in this and bringing old games into the new, or at least bringing them forward. And of course, like at first, the first thing I looked at was Streets of Rage. I'm like, okay, so they're doing a new Streets of Rage. What else have they done? and they've worked on Fatal Fury. They've worked on Street Fighter HD, like way back in 2008, like when they first brought it back, Street Fighter 2, a Champion Edition, onto the PS3 and the 360. To make it all like HD and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They've worked on R-Type. They've worked on Metal Slug. So like they've worked on like the Final Fantasy ports. Like these guys are like a little bit everywhere. They worked on King of Fighters 2000 port. So like these guys have been around. They've worked on some stuff, and they're not stuck to just one genre. But it seems like they have enough, or at least I would hope, like enough of a foot into some of the arcade fighting stuff. I mean, they're even credited on like the Windjammers, on Windjammers 2, and there was, so it's like,
I love Windjammers.
I think that if you're gonna do a new version of Altered Beast that it stays true a little bit to what it was, but improves it in every single way to make this game palatable for the for anybody, I think they could probably do a good job.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, especially with the way you saw Streets of Rage 4 that they're working on, the artwork is beautiful. So much that like I actually thought of them too, like, they could do a good comic zone too. Right. They just really good at the drawings and everything like that. So I like your pick there. So I got stupid on my pick here. I got really dumb because Altered Beast is a game where you can't take this game seriously. There's no way to put a story that's going to be too serious. So might as well make this game as fun as hell to me. So the developers I got was Omega Force from Tecmo Koei, or Koei Tecmo. And those are people that did your Dynasty Warriors. Those are people that did Hyrule Warriors, Fire Emblem Warriors. Even at the upcoming Persona game, Persona 5 Scramble. So Altered Beast needs to be a game where you're just going around just hacking and slashing and destroying everything in your path and just having fun with it. So the way I wanted to do this was I wanted this to be one person and one person only that can on the fly transform to any of these beasts that we talk about. Just on the fly, whatever they want. Like, and I'm talking about from, a were-tiger, a minotaur, a were-dragon. That exists. I looked it up. That's so weird. Again, but they all have their own combos when you switch them up. And, you level them up and you get more powerful moves. And you want to use different beasts for different situations. So, certain beasts can take care of these enemies a lot better. Certain beasts can take care of this. When it comes to boss fights, depending on their weakness, maybe that's the beast you should turn into to do that. And then of course in the regular game, as you're a human, but you get power-ups to become a beast. But in my game, no, you're gonna turn on the beast on the spot. The power-ups you get from destroying the enemies make you more powerful, and it makes your moves flashier. That's what I want. So like when you're doing like you're a werewolf and you're just you're seeing those large claw marks and stuff. When you get more powerful, those become bigger and bigger. Just make it more just over the top.
That would completely work for that style of game. My choice is playing it safe with just trying to like keep it the same style. No, your choice is like it would work. You could slap that Altered Beast name on there and have this big trailer where it's just complete chaos and devastation and like transforming into a bunch of different. It would completely work.
Yeah, and I wanted to set up as basically if I had to put a story, there's only like really 2 parts, but you probably have like maybe about 10 or 15 stages. But I wanted it to be where you're on your journey to get to the underworld. So you're going through the graveyard, you're taking it to the water, you're heading to this underworld. Then when you get to the underworld, that's what the second half, where you're working your way down, kind of like Dante and Inferno per se. You're working your way down to save Athena. So that's where like you get the great gruesome monsters and whatnot. But monsters I would love for Altered Beast to fight is like a Cerberus, a Chimera.
Oh yeah.
Medusa. And when you kill these enemies, you get new moves. So like, in Altered Beast, there's a werebear that has the power to purify people, petrify people, turn people to stone. So if you kill Medusa, you get that ability. and add that onto your thing. So all these mini bosses that you fight or big bosses you fight, you get a new ability to add to whatever fits that class for it. So maybe the wolf will get better, more speed and whatnot. But you get like special moments. Kind of, you play Hyrule Warrior, everybody gets kind of like a special moment where you shine for a minute and you do like cool combos. It'd be cool to see the werewolf like go super fast and and maul through a bunch of people like a football player or something like that, and then followed by like a large scar spreading out both ways or something like that. So yeah, I got really crazy with this because I think this game needs to be crazy. It's ludicrous, so why not make it just crazy and fun? And I think that Omega Force, Koei Tecmo is the ones that should take the reign of this game.
Rolling through levels with all this, like all your, all the Warriors games have those hordes and hordes of like just fodder, and you're just like swiping, or you jump up with like the dragon flames, just take them all out. I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah, and kind of like Dynasty Warriors, they're more of a strategy, so you have to go to certain areas to defeat. And this one, I don't want that. I want it more of you're basically trying to get to the end, but there's certain things you have to probably get, like, hey, you need to get a key to maybe open through this door or something, like, those kind of gamer elements. I don't want anything where like, hey, this area's being taken, go over there and deal with it. It needs to be more of like, I want to keep going forward. I don't want to go back for anything. And then we just got to make sure we're not doing the whole like repetitive, even though this game is going to be repetitive. I don't want to be more repetitive of going like room to room. They need to be some interesting set piece or some change up to make it more interesting. So not just slashing, but maybe learn combo moves while you're doing some of these some bigger enemies or something like that, like a power drive, or something to change that flow up a little bit.
And the new moves that you would get from defeating the bosses would play into that as well, because now you would get more to your arsenal that you can do with the petrification or anything like that, super flame, whatever,
Yeah. So yeah, that's my pick. I think actually they're the only ones I can think of that can really do it. I thought about Capcom, like Devil May Cry. I was like, no, they don't have time to deal with that. This game is kind of ridiculous. It's goofy. You need to give it to a team that will just make it even more goofier and not take it seriously. And they're just the king of those styles, so give it to them. So, okay, all right. So, Brent, I'm going to make you choose. Do you want to take another break, or do you want to go straight into our main course?
Let's go ahead and go right into it, man, because we're on a roll. And
all right.
So, your pick, as I said, it was actually one of my picks. Like when we first talked about doing this, hey, let's pick a short list of games that we could talk about. They haven't had anything done for a while, and that was Brave Fencer Musashi. I was so happy to see that you picked this. And
yes,
that somebody else likes this game other than me, because I will never forget renting this from my family video back when I had my PlayStation. I had so much fun playing this game. It was so quirky, so funny. It reminded me so much of like some of those afternoon anime like Toonami type style stuff that would come a little bit later than that. But I remember when I first started collecting about 5 years ago, I went out and literally jump started my collection. I made a deal with my wife where she wanted to get a lot more stuff for her photography business that she was doing at the time. And she's like, I need more than our share, because we used to share our tax return spendable part of it, our fund money, right? She goes, I need it all. And next year, you can have it all. And I thought about it, and I said yes. Well, what I did the next year, I got to have $1,300 to myself. And I spent it all on games, and I kickstarted my gaming collection. And I went out, and in 2 days, I bought 7 consoles / handhelds and 50 games. And one of those games that I found on that hunt was Brave Fencer Musashi. I got the game in my collection, and there was nothing but smile ear to ear from putting that game in and replaying that. Like, because I don't know, like, if for anybody out there that knows, like, I like to support a lot of my local smaller game stores and buy from them. And the thing is that when you buy games, you got to test them, And needless to say, it took a while to test 50 games, but I did it all in a matter of a night. I tested them all, and yeah, so ended up getting that, popping it in. I was all smiles, and so when I actually stopped to think about who would be the best. Okay, go ahead.
Now, I'm going to hold you up for a second, because I got to ask you something. Now, for people that probably didn't know, there was a sequel, and I wanted your opinion on that, the Samurai Legend, Musashi, and I wanted to know, do you have that game, and also what is your thoughts on that one? Because I felt like it kind of went the wrong way, in my opinion, and the character kind of felt a little too dumb for his own good. I liked some of the art direction, but the story itself and some of the ideas I had just didn't click very well, in my opinion.
Play a lot
what
of
is
the
your
one, and
thoughts
I
on
don't
that?
own it. Number one, I never found a copy of it.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would have it just to have it.
Okay.
I rented it.
Okay.
When I heard it was coming out, I rented it, and I didn't like it as much as I liked the first one. Same as you.
Okay.
I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it, but I also it didn't. I feel like it lacked the charm. Of that original version. I mean, that original version, it's not the most graphically appealing game. It definitely has its own look and feel. The artwork was cool, but it's easy to see that probably enough people felt the same because nothing has been done with the property since. So, in thinking of games now, like I'm thinking of like the original game, because that's what because when you said the original game, I thought of the sequel, and I'm like, well, I just want to focus on what this original game did, and what I could think would take that kind of game where you're running along levels. It's almost kind of like a weird 3D platformer as well at times, because you're running along and you're jumping over stuff to avoid obstacles, and you're swiping along and you're doing your thing, and it's so funny, it's quirky, and even though this might be an easy one to pick, the first thing that I thought of when translating the original Brave Fencer Musashi into something that could be done now was Metal Gear Rising. Okay. Because of the gameplay, how cool and how fun it was to play. You're going all around, you're slashing everywhere. You have that you had that free flow slash mechanic with Raiden. And then it just went absolute crazy as far as all the different stuff that you could do over the topness. So imagine you take the over the topness and mix it with the quirky, funny anime style storytelling and character. And the developer that did Metal Gear Rising did a lot of other games as well. Also, a game called Mad World on the Wii. And I mean, I'm just gonna stop beating around the bush. It's Platinum Games, and of course they've done. Did you? Oh,
I picked them too.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh yeah. So I can't wait to see our own visions of what we want Platinum to do. So yeah, Platinum was it was definitely the perfect choice, especially Nier Automata, Bayonetta, the cancel Scalebound, They know how to deal with characters with swords and whatnot, and of course Metal Gear Rising. So, anyways, go on. Yeah, great choice.
That's right where I went. Rising, and then of course they've done other awesome games. Even Vanquish. Vanquish is getting a cool new release, and of course like you said, Bayonetta. Also, they did the Transformers game, and they did the Turtles game. Did you ever play those?
Yeah. I try to not mention the licensed ones they did, because they did TMNT.
Yes,
I think they did Legend of Korra.
I never played Legend of Korra, but I did try Transformers Devastation, and I did try Turtles, Mutants, and Manhattan. And what I liked about them is, especially with the Turtles one for this, is that they're kind of the fun hack and slash kind of platform games, but they're made not with this necessarily big open world. They have the same level design as the original game had. So while you could take it, you could open it up and do this big new, Musashi type game in this big world, I guess that's been my theme. for all 3 picks in this episode is keeping it more closed in and focused on what made the original game good, and and kind of sticking to that archetype, because I feel like you could expand it and do all kind of crazy. Platinum does some crazy ass shit, and when you really let him go loose with it, you can have a lot of fun with that. And I think that's where you can have fun with the Brave Fencer Musashi's things and not make it too big and too open, and you could really make it the kind of game that it deserves to be and let it shine.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I picked Platinum too. Actually, the name, I even gave it a name. I wanted to call it Musashi Legend Reborn. I kind of think it just needs to be rebooted. And I went as far as like the artwork. I wanted to be more animated and fun, like more like just like it feels like more like just like a cartoonish.
Well, dude, his hair's going everywhere, so why not just let it go everywhere?
Yeah. And like I want to say like maybe Breath of the Wild kind of style graphics like that, but just Platinum do their thing with it.
Kind of cel shaded a little bit.
And right. So when it comes to the action part, I said over the top, but I want it to be where the game has great set pieces, because Platinum is known for great set pieces, and that's what Musashi needs to be. He needs to be coming off kind of like a badass, but still kind of goofy at the same time. Like it's more like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this situation. But then all of a sudden, he's just a badass all of a sudden. So I want the boss fights to definitely be memorable. And I definitely want different ways of style. So like I kind of like have you choose, do you want him to be a 1-sword or a 2-sword person? And that's shout out to the second game for the PS2, because you were dealing with 2 swords. And so I want it to be where your points can go to either one, like more to the 1 blade or more to the 2 blade, whatever you want to do with customization. So you kind of change up, even from the blades, like change your blades up. That'd be kind of interesting. Maybe you want a saw blade for it. Just get goofy and dumb with it, have fun with it and all that. And on top of that, I want it to be where when you're fighting different enemies, kind of like Metal Gear Rising, I want to see me slice somebody and they kind of fall off, bring that slice and dice. This is supposed to be just goofy as that. And when he takes hits, I want him to be kind of like, oh, that's kind of look like, did you just hit me? Kind of look, on the story wise, I thought I wanted to make it simple where, basically it's just 2 kingdoms. They're at a war and one king decided to summon a warrior, but he ended up being kind of evil and turned their nation to demons, and the other nation summons Musashi to help fight them off. And that's all you need. Well, just great boss fights and battles and whatnot. So, what is your thoughts on all that?
We're almost right on the same wavelength, because the moment you said set pieces, like when I was thinking of this game and how like the original game, as I said, it kind of had that platforming aspect to it, and then I started thinking of Metal Gear Rising and him running up. Like in a boss fight with like Metal Gear Ray, he's like running up the side of the damn thing and jumping off of missiles, and it's completely over the top and ridiculous. And I'm like, Musashi's the perfect guy for that. Yeah, and on top of that, I really want him to have badass finishers. One of my favorite things samurais do is the whole like slice, and then the move is not complete till he sheaths back his sword. Apart. Yeah, I want Musashi to do that. And I think it'd just be funny if you could do it like in camera cutscenes. So you have a camera, it looks like camera's taking of him just slicing and dicing everyone, and then at the end he just sheath it, and then everybody falls off. That'd be kind of cool. You know what I mean? Or just some ridiculous moves like he's jumping on people's heads and do a down slash. Just some cool ideas that would go really well, like with super moves or quick time events and whatnot. So yeah. So is there anything else from Musashi or Platinum that you think they can do to really make this game really shout out? Did you ever play, I mentioned earlier, did you ever play Mad World? I did. Yeah. That was on the Wii. Black and white, except for the blood. Black and white. It was all red, that was so different. But it was like kind of a beat 'em up, running down these levels, and you're grabbing stuff and you're doing all that kind of stuff. And I just remember this one level, you're fighting in front of a jet engine, and you're throwing dudes into it, and there's like fly, and they're like, there's this big rotor, and I'm just thinking of like, again, just massive set pieces of cool stuff. How cool would it be to be like you're in front, like like you can just take it anything, like like you're in front of like this, like say you're on a volcano. I don't know, you're on top of this volcano and you're just like trying to climb out. Meanwhile, you're running from the explosion, but you're still fighting dudes on the way out, and so so you're slicing them because they're coming after you, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And then the explosion comes out and there's all these rocks and you're bouncing off each rock and running, and he's just like, you do all this badass stuff, and then he lands and it's like, I don't know how I did that.
Yeah. It's funny when you mentioned Mad World, I thought how cool would it be if like his, like, I guess I'm going to say, for just a reference to Devil May Cry, his devil trigger, it goes to that old school black and white. And, like, the only color you see is more of, like, maybe, like, from, like, green blood from the demons, if you want to use demons, or if you want to use people, red blood. I don't care. But, like, it'd be cool if it's, like, black and white for that moment, like, and you're just, everything is slowed down.
Just like the old samurai
and you do slashes
flicks.
And whatnot.
The old, like Shogun or something like that. Like, back in the day, it's basically, like, the Japanese version of, like, the Westerns or whatever. You can even have like the camera style like pinned down into like a widescreen and close in on. He gets all of a sudden now he's very serious and he's locked in, and it's that thing like you said with the sheathing of the weapon and everything. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and like they really need to take advantage of that culture. So like one of my other favorite scenes is the whole like they're fighting behind something and all you see is their shadow fighting. That definitely needs to be in there somehow. I don't even care if it's a boss fight or something, but that they really need to just really push the envelope of the whole Japanese culture and everything like that. And like I said, like I think it'd be cool if you have a choice of the one sword or the two sword that you could probably switch on the fly if you want to. And then others, or even like if we want him to have like anything to throw like projectiles, like maybe like shadow blades, shurikens, or whatever.
Yeah. But another reason why I also chose Platinum was because they worked with everybody. Like they worked with they worked with Sega, like we said, with Bayonetta and with Vanquish, and with but they've also they've now got 2 games with Square that they've done, Nier, like you said, and then they got the new one was Babylon's Fall, and so it's like they have a good relationship with Square. And if Square ever gets a a wild hair up their butt and they're like, hey, let's let them have this and see what they do with it, I think they'd kill it.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, with that, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up our show. Thank you so much for joining the World Gaming Trade Show. But like I said, all these games, we still like to hear your pick. Who do you think is a great choice for Wing Commander, Ultra Beast, and Musashi? Brave Fencer Musashi. So definitely leave a comment. Remember, in the description, we always have links to get to our shows in other places and whatnot. But remember, you can find my show as part of the In-Game Boss program. And remember, you can always find me on Twitter and Facebook by typing that in. And then if you want to find me personally, I'm RetroAmp07.
For all our stuff, you can check out GameAddictsPodcast.com. That is the website for the Podbean. Of course, the podcast is available on podcast services all around the world. Just like we said, Apple, Spotify, Podbean, all those great places. We're also on YouTube. You can check out the YouTube channel for your one-stop shop. I got some gameplay stuff up there, and I plan on doing some more, including my first full playthrough of Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be up there. As I get it, I'm going to stream it all weekend until I beat the game. And, of course, you can check me out on all social medias at Game Addicts Play. You can reach out Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm there. And, yeah, man, it's been a great time sitting down here with you once again, talk about some games and talk about some cool stuff and some cool new rehashes or reboots of some great old classic games that haven't been touched in quite some time.
Yes, and remember, the show is a once a month, so hopefully if you love this, it gets even better the next month. So thank you so much, and we will catch you on the next show.